I was pouring the last cup of jasmine tea into a porcelain mug when my phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with my fiancé's name, Ethan. He was supposed to be in New York for a business trip. "Hey," I answered, smiling unconsciously. But his voice came through flat, rehearsed. "Clara, there's something I need to tell you. My mom's hosting a family reunion next week, in Tuscany. The whole family's going." I laughed lightly. "That sounds wonderful. Should I start packing?" A pause. Then his words landed like cold rain. "Actually, it's just family this time. My mom thought it would be too awkward for you, with everything still being new." I froze, hands still holding the mug. Steam rose between my fingers and drifted away. We'd been engaged for 10 months. I had spent every holiday cooking dinner for his parents, listening to his sister's stories, helping his mom choose flowers for her garden. And now, too new? "Oh," I said quietly. "Of course. Have a good trip." He sighed with relief. "I knew you'd understand. You're always so reasonable." After the call ended, I stood there for a long time. The tea had gone cold. For a few minutes, I just stood there, staring at the mug. Tiny ripples formed on the surface of the tea, like the echo of something I couldn't yet name. Then, as if on autopilot, I started cleaning up the kitchen. Plates, silverware, glasses, all from the dinner I had cooked just for us. Ethan's favorite, roasted salmon with lemon butter, rosemary potatoes, and that honey-glazed carrot salad he said reminded him of his childhood. It was supposed to be a welcome-home dinner. Now, it was just another lonely evening. I placed everything neatly into the sink, then hesitated. My hands began to tremble, and one of the plates slipped from my grasp. The sound of porcelain shattering against the tile echoed sharply through the silence. For a moment, I just looked at it, the fragments scattered like pieces of a story I no longer recognized. My phone buzzed again. A group chat notification popped up. A family trip 2025. Tuscany. Photos started rolling in. The rented villa, a vineyard, Ethan's sister tagging everyone in the comments. Everyone, except me. A dull ache bloomed behind my ribs. I walked to the living room and pulled out an old photo album. Our first Christmas together. Ethan smiling with his arm around me, both of us wrapped in fairy lights. His parents had called me a part of the family that night. What changed? The reflection in the window caught my eye, a woman standing alone, eyes tired, tea stains on her sleeve. That woman was me. I called my best friend, Nina. She answered on the second ring, her voice full of life as always. "Clara. I was just thinking of you. How's the fiancé doing?" I hesitated. His going on a trip. With his family. Without me. The cheer in her tone vanished instantly. "What? Again?" I didn't reply. "Clara," she said softly, "you've been bending yourself into shapes to fit into their world. Maybe it's time you ask if they ever tried to fit into yours." Her words sank deep, quiet but piercing. I didn't want to cry, not again, but my eyes burned anyway. "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired." "Fine," as she said, unconvinced. "Then come stay with me this week. I'll order pizza and we can watch bad rom-coms until you laugh again." I smiled faintly. Maybe. But when the call ended, I didn't move. The house felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow on the wall felt like a question I didn't want to answer. How many times had I told myself he loved me, just differently? How many dinners had I cooked, waiting for him to come home and say he missed me? Somewhere between 2 and 3 in the morning, I realized something that made my chest tighten. Maybe Ethan didn't forget to include me. Maybe he just didn't want to. And that hurt more than anything. Morning came too soon. I didn't remember falling asleep, but the faint sunlight through the curtains felt almost cruel. I went through the motions: shower, makeup, breakfast, but it all felt mechanical, like I was performing the role of Clara, the composed fiancée, in a play everyone else had stopped watching. By noon, I found myself scrolling through my messages again. Ethan hadn't texted, but his mother had posted on her social media. So excited to finally have the whole family together in Tuscany. The whole family. 2 words that shouldn't have hurt, but did. I tried to push the thought away and focus on work. As a freelance interior designer, my home was also my studio, but lately, it had started to feel like a cage. Everywhere I looked, there were pieces of him: his favorite mug on the shelf, the leather jacket draped over the chair, the note he left weeks ago that still sat on the fridge. "You're my calm place." That's what it said. I wondered if he'd meant it. At around 4, I heard a soft knock at the door. When I opened it, a delivery man stood there holding a small package. "Delivery for Ms. Clara Evans," he said, handing it over. I signed automatically and closed the door. The sender's name made my heart stutter: Ethan Blackwell. I tore the paper carefully, hoping, foolishly, for an apology note, maybe even a small gesture of love. Inside was a sleek black folder with a gold-embossed logo: Carmichael and Sons Law Group. My hands went cold. Inside were neatly typed pages: a prenup agreement. No note. No explanation. Just legal clauses, percentages, and signatures already filled out, his and his lawyer's. My name was the only one missing. I read line after line, the words blurring together. If the marriage ended, I would walk away with nothing. No part of his investments. No claim to the apartment we'd renovated together. Nothing. And at the bottom, in neat blue ink: "It's just a formality. My family insists. Love, Ethan." Love. That word sat there like an insult. I didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, I made myself a cup of coffee, sat by the window, and stared at the skyline. Somewhere across the city, Ethan was probably packing for Italy, with the same calm tone he used when asking me to sign away my worth. My phone buzzed again. It was Nina. "Clara, are you home?" "Yeah." "I'm coming over. Don't argue." When she arrived, she didn't say a word at first. She just looked at me, looked at the folder on the table, then sighed. "So it's true." I nodded. Nina sat down opposite me and took my hand. "Clara, listen to me. This isn't love. This is control dressed up as romance. He's showing you exactly who he is. Believe him." Her voice broke a crack in the wall I'd built inside. I swallowed hard. I thought if I kept being kind, they'd accept me. "They won't," as she said softly. "But you can still accept yourself." That night, I packed a small suitcase. Not because I was leaving yet, but because I needed to remember I could. As I zipped it up, I caught my reflection in the mirror. For the first time, I didn't see the quiet, careful woman trying to please everyone. I saw someone who was finally tired of pretending. someone ready to open her eyes. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. The city outside my window was still half asleep, streetlights flickering, a soft drizzle tapping against the glass. Something in me had changed overnight. It wasn't anger exactly, it was clarity. A quiet, solid kind that doesn't fade. I brewed a pot of coffee and sat on the couch, staring at the black folder still lying on the table. That contract had been my wake-up call. Not because of what it said, but because of what it didn't. It said nothing about trust, nothing about partnership, nothing about love. Just ownership. And it wasn't mine. While sipping my coffee, I remembered something: Ethan's office. He'd asked me not to touch his work desk when he moved in. Confidential documents, he'd said. At the time, I thought nothing of it. But now, that room felt like a locked chapter one needed to read. I stood up, my heart already racing. His office door was slightly ajar. Inside, everything was in perfect order. His laptop closed, his leather chair neatly aligned, even the pens lined up by color. But when I opened the top drawer, I found something strange: a thin white envelope with my name written in his handwriting. Clara. For a moment, I just stared at it, hesitant to open it, like part of me already knew it wouldn't hold anything good. Inside were a few printed photos. I flipped through them, each one taken at what looked like a small vineyard terrace. Ethan, and a woman I'd never seen before. She was laughing, leaning against him, holding his hand. Her face glowed under the sun. The last photo made my hands go numb. They were sitting at a long table surrounded by smiling faces. Ethan's parents. His sister. Even his aunt. The same people who said the Tuscany trip was their family-only reunion. I turned the photo over. Scrawled on the back in Ethan's handwriting were 3 words. To my sunshine, Lila. I sat down on the edge of the desk. It was all so clear now. The cancelled dinners. The late nights. The sudden business trips. He hadn't been busy. He'd been building another life, one that didn't include me. For a long time, I didn't move. I just let the truth settle like dust in the air. Then I did something I never thought I would. I took out my phone, photographed every picture, every file, every page of that prenup. When I was done, I packed my camera, my sketchbook, and a few clothes into my suitcase. Just before leaving, I looked around the apartment one last time. Every corner of it had pieces of us: the color palette I designed, the couch we'd picked together, the lamp he said reminded him of me. I switched off the lights. And for the first time, I didn't look back. Nina opened the door before I even knocked. She took one look at my suitcase and pulled me into a hug. I found out everything, I whispered. He's been seeing someone. His whole family knows. Her arms tightened around me. I'm so sorry, she murmured. But you did the right thing, Clara. You walked out with your dignity. Not everyone does. I nodded, though my throat ached. Nina poured us both coffee and sat across from me. So what's next? I don't know, I said. But I'm done waiting for someone else to choose me. That night, as I lay on Nina's couch, I couldn't stop thinking about the woman in the photo. Her smile, her confidence, the way she looked so free. For the first time, I didn't envy her. I just promised myself I'd learn to smile like that again. Not for anyone else. Just for me. The first morning at Nina's apartment felt strange. There was no scent of Ethan's cologne in the hallway, no ticking of the clock he insisted on keeping beside our bed. Just sunlight spilling across the wooden floor and the faint sound of city life below. For the first time in months, I felt space to breathe. I made coffee, strong, black, simple, and stood by the window, watching people rushing to work with purpose in their steps. It made me think. When was the last time I walked somewhere with purpose? I'd spent 3 years organizing my life around someone else's schedule. Around dinners that kept getting cancelled, promises that never arrived, love that always came with an asterisk. That morning, I opened my laptop and pulled up an old folder labeled Dreams. It held sketches for design projects I'd never finished, ideas I once loved before my world shrank around Ethan's. A small art cafe design, a community library renovation, even a plan for a charity home decor brand. I had forgotten all about them. As I flipped through the files, something stirred inside me, not pain, but quiet determination. Maybe, I thought, this was where I'd begin again. By noon, Nina came out of her room, still half asleep. "Whoa," she said, seeing the papers spread out all over the living room floor. "Did a tornado of creativity hit you overnight?" "Something like that," I said, smiling faintly. "I think I'm done crying." She grinned. Finally. I was running out of tissues. We laughed, really laughed, and it felt like breaking a spell. The sound of it filled the apartment, washing away weeks of silence. That afternoon, I called my parents. Mom picked up on the second ring. Her voice trembled when she heard mine. "Clara?" "Oh, sweetheart, we've been so worried." I hesitated, but then I said it clearly, the truth I'd been avoiding for too long. "Mom, Ethan's been lying to me. 4 months. He's seeing someone else." There was a pause, then a soft sigh on the other end. "Oh, honey. I'm sorry. But listen, losing someone who doesn't value you isn't a loss. It's freedom in disguise." Her words landed gently, like a hand on my shoulder. "Come home for a while," she added. "Just until you figure things out. Your old room's still the same." I smiled through the tears. Maybe I will. That evening, I went for a walk alone. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of rain on pavement. I passed a bookstore and stopped in front of its window. Inside, a group of people were laughing over coffee, sharing stories. Something about it called to me. I stepped inside and wandered through the aisles. On a whim, I picked up a small notebook from the counter, the kind with a soft leather cover and blank pages. On the first page, I wrote, "Day 1, learning to choose myself." It wasn't a plan or a promise, just a beginning. When I got back to Nina's, I placed the notebook on the bedside table. The city lights flickered outside, reflecting softly on the window pane. For the first time in years, I didn't feel afraid of tomorrow. Whatever came next, it would be mine. A week passed. Each day felt a little brighter, like the air itself had grown lighter around me. I started taking freelance work again, small interior design consultations, mostly local cafes and boutique stores that couldn't afford big firms. The kind of places where people still cared about the warmth of a space, not just the price per square foot. It wasn't much, but it was mine. One evening, as I was finishing up sketches for a client, my phone buzzed. It was an email, subject line, e-invitation, Creative Spaces Conference, panel registration. I frowned. It was from an old colleague, Eleanor, who now worked as a project director for a design firm downtown. She'd written, "Clara, I've been following your work online. We're organizing a panel on sustainable interior design next month. I'd love for you to speak and showcase your new concepts. I think people need to hear your perspective. I stared at the screen, stunned. For a moment, I didn't even know what to feel. Pride, fear, disbelief. The last time I'd been asked to speak publicly was years ago, before Ethan. Back when I still believed my voice mattered. When Nina got home, I told her. She dropped her bag and stared at me, wide-eyed. You're doing it, right? I don't know, I admitted. It's been so long. What if I freeze? What if I stop? She crossed her arms. Clara Evans, the woman who walked out of a man's house with her head held high, is afraid of a stage? Please. I laughed, despite myself. She grinned. You've got this. And besides, I'll be in the front row with a sign that says you're amazing. A week passed. Each day felt a little brighter, like the air itself had grown lighter around me. I started taking freelance work again, small interior design consultations, mostly local cafes and boutique stores that couldn't afford big firms. The kind of places where people still cared about the warmth of a space, not just the price per square foot. It wasn't much, but it was mine. One evening, as I was finishing up sketches for a client, my phone buzzed. It was an email, subject line, e-invitation, Creative Spaces Conference, panel registration. I frowned. It was from an old colleague, Eleanor, who now worked as a project director for a design firm downtown. She'd written, Clara, I've been following your work online. We're organizing a panel on sustainable interior design next month. I'd love for you to speak and showcase your new concepts. I think people need to hear your perspective. I stared at the screen, stunned. For a moment, I didn't even know what to feel. Pride, fear, disbelief. The last time I'd been asked to speak publicly was years ago, before Ethan. Back when I still believed my voice mattered. When Nina got home, I told her. She dropped her bag and stared at me, wide-eyed. You're doing it, right? I don't know, I admitted. It's been so long. What if I freeze? What if I stop? She crossed her arms. Clara Evans, the woman who walked out of a man's house with her head held high, is afraid of a stage? Please. I laughed, despite myself. She grinned. You've got this. And besides, I'll be in the front row with a sign that says you're amazing. The morning of the conference arrived with golden sunlight streaming through the curtains. For once, I didn't wake up anxious. Instead, I felt a quiet steadiness, like I had finally stepped into rhythm with my own life. I brewed coffee, slipped into the navy pantsuit I'd saved for important moments, and looked at myself in the mirror. My reflection was simple, no extravagant makeup, no polished perfection. Just me. And for the first time in a long while, that was enough. The event hall was larger than I expected, rows of white chairs, a soft hum of conversation, cameras being set up at the back. Eleanor waved at me from the side of the stage, clipboard in hand. 5 minutes till we start, she said, her smile reassuring. You ready? I nodded, even though my heart was pounding. I think so. Adrian walked over, calm as ever, carrying 2 cups of coffee. One's yours, he said, handing me one. You looked like you could use it. Thanks, I said with a nervous laugh. How do you stay so relaxed before these things? He shrugged. I don't. I just remind myself, no one's here to see perfection. They're here to feel something real. Those words settled in my chest like an anchor. When my turn came, I walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, and for a moment, I couldn't see the audience, just outlines of faces and cameras. I took a breath. Good morning, I began. My name is Clara Evans. For a long time, I believed that good design was about beauty, about making spaces look perfect. But over the last few years, I've learned that real design starts with honesty. As I spoke, the tremor in my voice faded. I talked about creating spaces that heal, not just impress. About how empathy and imperfection make places feel alive. I didn't read from my notes. The words simply flowed, from a part of me I'd almost forgotten existed. When I finished, there was a long, quiet pause, then applause that rolled through the hall like a wave. It wasn't the loud kind that comes from politeness. It was deep and genuine, like the audience understood what I'd left unsaid. As I stepped off the stage, Eleanor hugged me. You were brilliant, she said. Raw and real. Everyone felt it. Adrian smiled, his eyes soft. Told you, people don't come for perfection. I laughed, the sound free and effortless. For once, I didn't feel like a shadow in someone else's story. I was the author again. Later that evening, a small group from the conference went to dinner. The room was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and stories of old projects gone wrong. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. A message. For a second, my heart hesitated. Ethan's name glowed on the screen. Saw your talk online. You were amazing. I've made a mistake. Clara. Can we talk? My chest tightened for a moment, not from longing, but from memory. I set the phone down, unread, face down on the table. Adrian noticed my silence. Everything okay? I smiled. It is now. And it was true. When I got home that night, I opened my little leather notebook. On the last page, I wrote, Day 100. I no longer wait to be chosen. I build, I create, I love. And this time, I choose me. I closed the notebook and placed it on my windowsill. Outside, the city lights shimmered like scattered stars, each one a reminder that even broken things can still shine. Friends, thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.